rise in opposition of HB number 43. Mandatory vaccinations will only force people to inject unknown substances into their body, unable to reject something with the potential to harm them. Mandating vaccinations will not only be unjust for citizens and bring harm, but may have the potential to be inefficient and only cost American tax dollars.
20 seconds, Representative Peters.
I knew a little girl who was born with a condition where she couldn't develop a small intestine. Because of this, she had a weakened immune system, and it was more dangerous for her to receive the vaccine than it was for her to not. Because of this, she was stuck in her home all day and couldn't interact with people for the fear that they didn't have the vaccine and had this disease. Those of us who can receive this disease have a duty to those who can't to protect them and save their lives.
20 to Representative Inman.
I agree we don't have many diseases. That's a great thing. But that's because of herd immunization that we have right now without mandatory vaccinations. So why are we forcing it and making it mandatory for everybody?
It is proven that vaccines work, that deadly diseases can be prevented. In order to improve public health and decrease the mortality and long-lasting effects of these deadly diseases, this bill must be implemented. I urge you to support HB 43, a bill to mandate vaccinations. Thank you.
Wisconsin Eye is talking to Middleton High School students who worked on the issue of whether there should be mandatory vaccinations. Could you give us your name and your party affiliation, please?
Well, my name is Samir. I affiliate with the Democratic Party, but I do have ideas that stretch over that.
And I'm Celia Semrad, and I'm also a Democrat, but I do have some Republican views as well.
Well, the bill, as I understand it, would have put forth mandatory vaccinations, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask first, why did you choose this issue to get so involved in?
Personally, this one really intrigued me because I am really interested in the medical field and things that kind of affect our population as a whole. So it definitely intrigued me.
I would say the same, and I like to learn about medical things, but I saw that this bill it was mandatory vaccinations in the sense that everyone has to do it, and that type of ultimatum interests me as well in the fact of how would it be, what would the procedure be, how would they, what are the guidelines? I was very intrigued with that.
Okay, and how did you research this topic? I think it's your turn, Simi.
Well, to begin with this topic, I had to go through the bill and see what did I agree with, what did I disagree with, what were my questions. And from that, I decided to start my research. The things I disagreed on, I saw were they in fact possible to do, and the things that I had questions, I had to further research and see what were the answers.
And well, since I was really intrigued in this subject, I actually wrote a floor speech on this topic. So I pretty much just researched it online, tried to find some sites that were solely about vaccines and were very knowledgeable on the subject. And I really tried to find personal stories about mothers whose infants died from measles and just things like that. So hopefully the audience would empathize.
15 seconds, Representative Senrab.
Given that pregnant women can't get vaccinations, you're not only putting them at risk, but also the fetus. And I don't think it's fair that we put our younger and weaker generations that can't speak up for themselves at risk. Thank you.
Well, I should have asked this earlier. Your positions on the bill, were you for or against?
I am for this bill.
For this bill. And you're against the bill?
Against the bill, yes.
And what surprised you when you did your research? The most surprising thing? Go ahead.
I actually found that there's a lot more people in our society that can't get vaccines than I thought, and that we're really put at risk when people who can safely get a vaccine don't.
Because he can't get a flu shot, my brother is very susceptible to the virus. So every year my family gets the flu shot to try and give him herd immunity. That's the basic principle for vaccinations. The more people that are immunized, the fewer targets illness can take root in and therefore spread, according to vaccines today. This protects everyone as a whole because those who cannot get vaccinations are sheltered from the illness by those who are immunized.
What surprised me is when I was doing research, I saw that for the hepatitis B shot, about 1% of the people may face death and very serious issues with their health after they take the vaccine, whether or not they're allergic to it. So just seeing the calculations of if a certain amount of people take the vaccinations, like around 7 million or billion, about 700,000 people would suffer very serious effects from the vaccination.
However, if more than 70 million children receive the vaccination, that means that more than 700,000 children are likely to suffer adverse reactions, including death. So why are we taking 0.35% away from the defense budget to only see that many are suffering adverse reactions?
It's a very emotional issue. How do you feel after studying the issue when somebody might emotionally say vaccinations cause autism?
Vaccinated children are found to be more chronically ill than unvaccinated children, with rates of ear infections, ADHD, asthma, and allergies as much as 30% higher than unvaccinated children. These so-called cures are causing harm and wreaking havoc on the youth of America, and I will not stand by and watch it happen without doing something about it.
Well, I just think there's so many studies out there now that totally just brush that accusation that I don't think it's much of a problem, but I do definitely still see that concern prevalent in our society today. But honestly, I think people are really just realizing that that's not accurate.
Thank you. And Simi?
I agree. I think that before you put such an accusation, you should do research on that. There's a couple of so-called doctors on TV that say, oh, vaccinations cause autism, and then you've got this population who agrees with that doctor without doing further research. So I think that now that more known news stations have said that vaccinations don't cause autism, I think that more people now agree with that, but I think that those doctors really shouldn't say stuff before they do their research as well.
Thank you. 15, Representative Brazo.
In response to accusations that vaccines cause chronic illness or autism, I want to say that there's a ton of other factors from the environment or genetics that contribute to those things, and correlation does not prove causation.
And this passed. Did the outcome surprise you?
Honestly, it surprised me a little bit just because it is something that's mandatory. There's not too many loopholes, and I know people don't really like to be told what to do with their body, whether it be like a little thing or a big thing, but it was a Democrat supported bill, and the majority of people here at MHS are Democrat, so that was definitely in our favor, but it did surprise me just a little.
I believe parents are capable of making their own decisions about their child's health. As a country, we believe in freedom of choice. This freedom extends to whether a parent chooses to vaccinate their children.
However, I do not think it is right to force everyone in the U.S. to get vaccinated. So instead, I think we need to educate people more on these diseases and vaccinations and let them choose if they want to be vaccinated.
Were you surprised, Simi?
I wasn't, because I knew that a majority of people take into consideration the concern of individuals who can't take the vaccination due to their own health and how that affects them if no one else takes the vaccination. So I knew that the people were going to vote in favor of this bill, but I had to try again.
Well, try again right now. Your best arguments for and against the bill. Simi, go first. Bring it.
Well, as you know, there's an agreement that doctors swear to keep called HIPAA. It's where they try to make sure to not release your records of procedures that a patient has gone through, and they are sworn by law not to do that. And the penalties they face when they break this oath is $50,000 and imprisonment. And through this bill, doctors are required to give immunization records to the government, and you're not allowed to do that with HIPAA is pretty much the only thing I can say. But a lot of people then pose the argument that schools have to do that. You must take vaccinations to go to schools. But there is a subsection in HIPAA that says you are allowed to do that. If you are a school, you are allowed to ask primary care physicians for immunization records. So that's a big problem I have with this bill.
These are the reasons why I, a Democrat, cannot pass this bill. We are only creating a bill to violate another agreement by giving citizens personal treatment information to the IRS. We are violating the privacy policy that professionals swear to abide by.
Wow, she's citing the HIPAA law. Bring it. Your turn.
The big reason I'm in support of the bill is just that there are populations within our society that can't get vaccines. Pregnant women, some infants, and people that are allergic to some ingredients within vaccinations. So honestly, I just felt like that I needed to be their voice, and people that can safely get a vaccine without being hurt should get them, because it overall just reduces the number of people that die from these preventable diseases. And also the fact that infants are the most affected by these preventable diseases. And I read a lot about personal stories where mothers lost their children within hours from things like measles, because once you find out that they have them, a lot of times there's just no turning back. So I just felt like I needed to speak up for some people that don't necessarily have a voice.
32, Representative Jan.
In response to previous representative said about not having very many disease outbreaks, the only reason for that is because we did have vaccines.
While everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you do not have the right to threaten everybody else's life, liberty, and the pursuit of their happiness by killing them off because of things that you are carrying around that have the potential to kill them. Thank you.
Talk about your experience with legislative semester. Did you enjoy it? Is it valuable? You more interested now in how a bill becomes a law?
Yeah, I'm for sure more interested. I came in here with pretty much zero interest in politics and government, things like that. But experiencing this definitely has opened my eyes up to a lot of possibilities. I don't think I'd be interested in taking a career within one of them, but it was definitely a fun experience. I enjoyed it.
And Simi?
I would agree that it makes you interested in the careers that are possible with this, with government. But I was already very politically active. I had my ideas down, and I'm constantly looking at bills that are in our local government here. And to see the actual process done by high school students was pretty amazing. I thought that they handled it with such poise, and they carried out what they had set to done. If they made a bill, they carried it through, and
Right.
I was pretty impressed, and it definitely made me more interested.
She said she's probably not going to run for office. Are you? Do you get possibility?
I don't know, because there are definitely downsides to government. The disagreement between the two major parties, Democratic and Republican. I don't appreciate it, being pretty much a moderate myself, a moderate Democrat. So it's like you're really torn between two sides. And I think that I could possibly run for office and try to change that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.